There we go.
Here we go. All right, everyone. Welcome back to History of the W, our podcast where we talk about all kinds of cool Widener history, Widener football history. And today we have, as you can see on our recording, we have a real special guest. We've been waiting for this for quite a while. So we're looking forward to this. I'll kick this off by giving everybody a little bit more, remind everybody the backstory about Widener's football. Widener has a super rich tradition with the football at the university. Football started in 1879 at Widener. Widener has 732 wins as a program. Only 53 programs in all of college football, all the divisions in history have over 700 wins. Widener sits at number 42 on that list and is fourth all-time in Division III in wins behind Mount Union, Wittenberg, and our playoff nemesis W&J. And we are just a few wins ahead of Wabash. So we also played in the playoffs a few times, I think, but maybe time. Widener football has an overall winning percentage of 614, 2 national championships in 1977 and 1981. And since 1975, we have over 20 MAC championships, 2 of which the 3 of us have been a part of in 1994 and 1995. And of course, our guest has been a part of quite a few more than that. Why don't you take it from here, Boone?
Yeah, Boone K. I played at Widener from 92 to 95. And, played against the wonderful defense of, Coach Zwann here. And love playing against, the defensive guys, especially during our 2-week camp that we have over the summer, and seeing Coach go off on especially the new guys, right, coming up against veteran receivers. So, but yeah, this podcast is definitely something, like Pete and I started, and then now, Gary Mad Dog have eventually joined us. So again, thank you for joining the call here, Coach Mad Dog.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. I had the honor of being with these guys in 94, 95. I played under Coach Zwann on his defense, and was an honor to play for Coach Zwann, and, the memories that we had at Widener and what we experienced. So I thank you for having me.
Boone, why don't you give a little intro who our guest is and some of his background, some of his bio? Why don't you start off there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pete. So, yeah, our wonderful guest, Coach Zwann. Some of the I would say the standout achievements from the coach here, just letting everybody know. So he's a graduate of Archbishop Carroll, and also not only played football but baseball as well. He led the team to the Catholic Championship in '71, MVP of the Southern Division, also Maxwell Player of the Year, Philadelphia Daily News All-Decade Team, Hall of Fame for Carroll as well, Delaware County Sports Hall of Fame inductee, scholar athlete at University of Delaware, and played for the legendary Tubby Raymond, and then played in 2 national championship games, winning 1 in '74. Great accomplishment, Coach.
Absolutely.
Gary, pass it on to you.
Yeah, thank you, Boot. It didn't stop there either. We had the fortunate, Coach Zwann with us, a Widener defensive coordinator from 92 to 96, 1992 to 96. Then he became the head coach of Widener from 1997 to 2002. He had a record of 54-14, remains the winningest coach in school history. 4 MAC championships, including a semifinal appearance in 2000 and a quarterfinal appearance in 2001. 2003, he took over Division II as a head coach at Westchester University. 21 seasons. He racked up a record of 163 wins and 76 losses, including 7 conference championships, 10 NCAA playoff appearances, including 2 semifinal appearances, as well as being named Coach of the Year 5 times. A total head coach record of 219 and 90 for football, and he also coached college baseball, if you weren't aware of that.
I want to add one more statistic into this, guys. Widener's been around since 1879. That's over about 150 years of football, 732 wins, and 11% of those wins are directly related to this man we have on our podcast tonight. One person, over 11% of those wins. That's a huge deal. And that's just at Widener, let alone what he's done at Westchester. So, guys, thanks, Coach. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thanks for the
introduction.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, it was Widener, as you guys have already brought up, the football tradition there is just absolutely amazing. It was nice to be involved in it. Coach Bill Cubitt brought me in when he got the job there as a defensive coordinator. I always knew about Widener because I grew up in Delaware County and went to Carroll and knew Bill Manlove really well. So I always knew Widener was a great program, but getting involved with it like I was able to do with you guys, just really re-emphasize that. And then when I became athletic director and head football coach, that was really a great, in my career, one of the best things that I did was when I became the athletic director. There was so many big things going on at that point, not only in football, but in other sports. And just a ton of people I met. I'll tell you one thing. Well, the one thing that stands out more than anything else, when I left Widener and went to Westchester, the camaraderie at Widener, including everybody, the grounds crew, the security people, everybody on that campus loved athletics and loved Widener football. Got to Westchester, you didn't have anything like that at all. There was completely different atmosphere. It's something I really missed when I went from Widener to Westchester. Some of you guys will remember, some of the guys that came down, Dick Houston, and those guys they were great guys, and they did anything for you, and they really cared about the team. And that's a major difference when I went to Westchester was the atmosphere and of the people on campus.
Yeah, very cool, Coach. I mean, obviously we still feel it's the same. I mean, even though we're all spread out all over the country, and I'm in Florida, Gary's in Texas, and Boonta's close, but not that close. Still in Pennsylvania. We still feel so tied to the school. I mean, it's home. I mean, it's we obviously are passionate about it, and we love talking about it and bringing up stuff and again, just having you on here is a real treat. So, how did it? Why don't you let us know? Like, how did it start? How did you get brought in to Widener? I mean, obviously, like you said, you knew about the school. I knew about the school. I have a long history with the school myself. But how did it actually come about? Because I know you were down coaching in Florida, and you made the move.
Yeah,
back,
so
back
I
home.
went. So Bill Cubitt was from the. We roomed together in college. We stayed friends long after that. And then he got a coaching job in Florida, at high school in Florida, and he asked me to come down and join him, which I did. And that's kind of an interesting story. But so I got down there in August. Camp starts August 15th. We go through the season. We have a really great year. We make a nice run to the semifinals of the 6A champion ball with Florida football. It was a great run, and the season ends like right at the beginning of December. In a matter of a week, Coach Cubitt goes to the University of Florida to work for Galen Hall, and he brought me down there. I only know about 10 people. I've been working for a couple months, but it was nice. The principal, they made me the dean of students, so the principal and I worked a lot together. And she really liked me. And right away, she told me, look, you're going to get the job. We got to go through the process, but everybody at school likes you. We're going to give you the job. So I ended up becoming the head coach there. A couple different that and then the Widener job opened up. And at the time, my wife really wanted to get. We loved Florida, but she missed her family and everything. So as soon as Bill called and said, you want to come up, we that day. And then, so after my first year, I got named the head baseball coach there as well as a defensive coordinator. So I was a baseball coach for like 5 years. And then, we had great success, was a great run. Hughes was a different type of guy as far as how hard he pushed everybody, and he made you work. And then but all along, Bill had always was looking for something else. He had interviewed at a couple of positions, so I kind of knew he wasn't going to stay that long. And then he got the job out in Western Michigan, and Bob Bruce called me, the president at the time. We were down at the coaches convention in Florida, and he calls me and says, "Hey, why don't you grab a plane?" Which I did, and I knew what was happening, and a great meeting with him. You got Bruce, our president.
Oh yeah,
he was a great guy to work with, and he loved football. So, and I said, "Look, I'm going to be different than Coach Cubitt on this thing." And he says, "Be yourself. We like you, too." And it took year to some things around. We ran a different offense, a couple different things. Eventually, that all came together, and we recruited some great players. And just like that, we were playing Mountain Union in 4, which was pretty interesting. Yeah. So, but was it? Bruce would call me every month after the games, Monday, and he would, just talk about the game, and he would say, "So why'd you call this? How come you guys did this down at the goal line?" And it was never like he was criticizing. He just wanted to know. He was like, "Yeah, that was kind of neat thought you guys had, and I like that idea." So that's because he was a fan. He's a real legitimate fan. And I will tell you, you guys know that we had a tough time with Lycoming over the years. And I'll never forget when we finally did beat Lycoming 50-49 in double overtime at our place after having, like 2 years earlier, we had them on the ropes and lost. We got that win, and it was actually his last year. I had promised to beat before he got, and 50-49 double overtime. I turned around, looked up the president's box, pointed at him, told him that was for him, and I couldn't have been a guy more excited than he was when we beat them. Yeah, but the way the president cared, and that made a big difference. That the board of trustees cared, and you could feel it. They wanted us to win, and they helped us win. So it was a lot of fun coaching there. I left there to go to Westchester. That was a tough decision on my part. There were a lot of good kids, a lot of great people. To be honest, being the AD had some good points and some bad points. Kids were really getting to an age where I didn't feel like I could still be an AD and do what I wanted to do with them. So when they offered me to be just I had to take it. No.
Coach, you're breaking up a little bit. Maybe.
Am I breaking up?
Yeah, a little bit.
Sorry.
That's okay. See if you can find a better spot. But yeah, I mean, it's.
I'm not able to handle this very well. Can you come over here and handle it?
Hurry up and get us some tech support, man. Come on.
Right? Pete's like, go find the nearest tower, Coach.
Come on. Don't hold on.
Step outside.
Put your hand on the Wi-Fi on the router, and you'll act like an antenna, right?
Yeah.
But Coach, you bring up a good point. Yeah, you bring up a good point though. Like, we've gone through a couple of presidents now since, and I don't know how much you are paying attention or not, but the last couple of presidents, they really, I mean, sports are not a priority at this point. It's it is what it is, but it's you can feel it. You can feel the difference.
The thing is, at the Division III level, the president is so key. The president and vice presidents are so key for athletic success at the Division III level, because you can't just simply offer a kid a scholarship. So you need to have an entire program behind you when you try to talk this kid coming to your school. What's Widener cost now? Like $60,000 or maybe more.
Yeah.
And you get somebody to spend that kind of money to come to your place. They got to feel like it's it's going to be worth it for them. The president who came in after Bob Bruce, Jim Harris, he was another athletic guy. He loved it. He, poured not just money, but emotion and everybody being involved. And that's just so key at the Division III. If you walk on the Mount Union's campus, that school wants to win. And they don't hire a president who does not want to make sure football is going to win. And that's just the way it is there. And they're good in every sport. And when you look at schools that really throw their time and money and effort behind the programs at Division III, they win. And the problem is, when who doesn't have that, it can very south, because you need people to help you with things. You need people to help you in admissions, in financial aid, the way it is.
Yep.
And I don't know who the presidents were the last couple of years, but I do know that's out there about their support. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The previous president, her name was President Woolman. She was not a sports person, but she got the university back in the black. She changed, she got things back from a business standpoint. The new president, her name is Stacey Robinson. She's a fan, but I don't know how much she cares. So she shows up and things like that, at events, and I've seen her at the Phillies in Clearwater and stuff like that. But I don't know, I don't think there's a lot of money there still. I mean, current coach Mike Baraniak's the budget is the same as when we played.
Yeah,
that tells you a lot, right? That was 30 years ago. So they're struggling at all times to do anything competitive, and let me tell you a story, Pete. And this is a Widener story. So we go to the Final Four to play Mount Union. Okay. Once we got the second, third week, we're going into the Springfield week before we played before Mount Union. There was nobody else in the area playing. Delaware was done. Temple was done. Lehigh was done. Villanova was done. Everybody was done. So all the news coverage was Widener. So Channel 6 came and KYW came, and we were everywhere. All the newspapers back then, everybody was covering us. And we went 2 weeks, we had a big win in Springfield, then we go out to Mount Union. We had people flying out with us. And after that year, the increase in applications to Widener was substantial because people heard about us. They read about us in the paper. Widener stuck out. And you can go back over the years and look at, they call it the Doug Flutie effect. So when Doug Flutie threw that pass at Boston College on Thanksgiving Day or the day after Thanksgiving, Boston College's applications jumped by a third. And then you look at Villanova wins the national championship, their applications jumped by a third. And when we got to the Final Four, our applications jumped by a third. So schools like Widener need the athletic programs to be, they call it, to be the front porch of the school. Yeah. In other words, you got to put them out front because they get the notoriety. I've said this for years and years and years. There is nobody who knows who the dean of engineering is. They just don't. Now we have a good program, and you can sell that program to people, but nobody reads about the engineering dean in the paper. They read about the football coach and the basketball coach and the football players and the basketball players, but they do not read about the engineering people. So you got to push the program, get it headlines, get people to know who Widener is, and then they find out that, hey, they got a good engineering program. Hey, they got a good nursing program. And Bob Bruce knew that. And when he pushed us and got us to the level, the reason was he wanted people to find out who Widener was. And that's what made the difference. Yeah. And they're not doing that at this point. It's unfortunate. Yeah. It's an uphill battle at all times. I mean, they get some good kids. They get kids they have a great graduation rate and all those other things. But from a competitive standpoint, they're, middle of the road. And it's actually a great spot to be in right now because if you win the MAC, you get automatic bid
Yeah.
tournament now, and it's a spot like, and Del Val is not what they used to be. I mean, they're not terrible. That's not like they're bad, but they're not. It's not an automatic.
They're coming back
champion.
to the pack right now.
Right. So like, there's a chance if you can scrape it and claw and get the a shot at the championship. So, but they know this, and I talked to Coach before, and he's like, the NIL stuff and the tuition is extremely expensive, and he's like, Pete, we're losing kids to Westchester for $2,500, stuff like that. Kids that'll start at Widener for 3 years and they'll sit the bench at Westchester, but so we're doing stuff, from an alumni standpoint to try to help with that, but it takes time, and there isn't a lot of money. There's no big whale donors that are dropping $500K on the program. It's not happening. It's it is what it is, but that's it. Yeah.
But like what we're talking about is just the support. It's not necessarily going to be everybody giving so much money that we can just take things over. It's just support from the admissions, from the president, from the administration. They just say, hey, we're here to help you guys. We're going to try to make it good for these guys. You bring them in, they're going to feel us. They're going to hear us. They're going to feel us, and it's going to be a great experience for them. I always remember when I got the job, Bob to me, or I said, Bob, you want, because I was being named athletic director at the same time. I said, what do you want out of the athletic programs? And he said, I want those kids to have a great experience. That's all I want. I want them to have a great experience. And if they have a great experience, then they're going to win. And winning is all part of having a great experience. So he said, that's what I want. I want those kids to walk out of there after 4 years and say, man, I had a great experience. And I thought, boy, how many presidents say that? How many presidents talk about the programs like that? And he did. And he was that guy,
Let's bring it back to a time where there was that support. What do you say, Gary? You guys got something to ask Coach on this? Let's bring up some old school stuff now. What do you think? It's like, I remember, of course, Boonta and I never actually played for you, right? So we knew about it, and I always got along with you, Coach. I know Boonta probably did too. We always, respected what you had to say. I was at odds with some of my coaches at times, but we always, so what was it like on defense? What do you guys got something to say? I mean, Gary, you probably have some more insight here, particularly from your standpoint. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Coach Zwann is a player's coach. You run through the wall for him. The way he treated you, no matter if you're a starter, second string, or you're a scout guy, always gave you the time and the respect, which I truly valued. Someone you wanted to go to war for and with, because you believed in his leadership and his genuineness. I'll say that, being on the scout team and not being able to be with Coach with the two deep, I got to see the other side of the ball a lot, where Pete and Boonta stood, if you will, and those coaches. And I will say I was happy that I was on the defensive side, and the experience that I had with that. When I got into coaching and coach for 15 years, I always you always take the good and the bad from people, right? And I took a lot of good from Coach Zwann. And then I took from some of the other coaches we had, some of the things that they did, and said, I'm never going to do that, right? And you learn from that. But nothing but great things with Coach Zwann and experiences, the way he treated his players. Great defense in 1994, obviously, that he instituted. And always remember that with Scarpati back there at safety, and OJ. And the D-line was crazy, and Blaze and Clarence Giles, a linebacker, and Antonio Moore, but they all played for the man that's on our screen right now. They played for the team, and Cuba was the head coach, but as far as it's almost like the Chicago Bears, right, in 85, right? Two coaches only in the history of football got carried off the field. It was Buddy Ryan and Mike Dickey, right? Well, on Saturdays in 94, 95, we lined up to play for the man that's on the screen on the defensive side. So nothing but great experiences and a lot of respect for Coach Zwann.
Yeah, I echo the same too, Mad Dog. I think, totally a lot of respect for you, Coach. As you know, like I went to a couple Westchester games.
Yep.
And I made a point to go out and see you, talk to you, on the field. I think what tore me apart is when you played Jimmy, like Westchester and Kutztown. That was hard, like it's like, who do I root for? Do I root for Westchester? Do I root for Kutztown? Like I got a former player, I got a former coach, but
I'll tell you what, that was hard for me too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love Jimmy.
Yeah. I think it's the same for him too. And we always make a point, and I always try to catch, your games, and then now I try to catch Jimmy's games. But again, it's all about that connection. After leaving Widener, and the respect you have for coaches, and being able to connect, and being able to go out there, to the field afterwards, and have that conversation with you. So and I totally love that experience, at Widener. And just to let you know, I remember, I think it was over the summer, our freshman year, before we went to camp. I think you and Cubic came up, and I think we were in testing in the cafeteria. And I know you walked around, and I believe started talking to some of the players, and that were there that day. But the thing was, Widener, I wasn't recruited by you or Cubic, and it was the old guy O'Neill, right? And then till this day, and I tell this story all the time, the track coach thinks that he recruited me because he was the first guy to greet me when I came to Schwartz, and I was just trying to come in and like, hey, I'm just here, visit, and at that time, and just making sure, I find the place, and O'Neill, coach, is it O'Neill, right? He was there, and then after that process, right? I mean, like nobody knew me, and I feel like I came in there like kind of like as like nobody knows this kid, who's this kid, and that kind of thing. But then as camp progressed, I felt like you guys made it feel like as coaches, being part of that team, because one thing I liked about it was you guys were easy to talk to, easy to connect with, as coaches, right? But also I love lining up against your defensive backs. Whether they made me better or I made them better, I love that respect, and I always enjoyed it. So, but yeah.
Well, I'll tell you and this has been in my coaching career. Everybody. So when I coached offense at Widener and then at Westchester, all the defensive guys would say, Coach, we loved it when you started screaming and yelling at your guys because we beat you. So our goal every day was, let's get Coach Zwann mad and yelling and screaming. And I know that's what you guys were doing when I was on the defensive side. Because you knew as soon as somebody did something stupid, I was jumping all over.
I got two scenarios. Boonty, you remember these because these were before you when we played at Memorial Stadium. At one time, they put Coach up in the box.
Oh my God!
He's up in the box. You could hear him from the whole fucking place, right? And somebody was lined. It was Gal. It was lined up. They put this guy named Mike Gallagher who played defensive back, and he was a clown. He was in the wrong spot, and he's screaming from the box, "Gal, move!" And Gal went like this. Okay, and then he moved.
Yeah. They were on like the 5-yard line going in. So I got to yell all the way down because they're going to score if Gal doesn't move. So I'm yelling into the phone and nothing's happening. So finally I take the phones off and yell, Gal! And of course, everybody just turns around and looks up at me. And then that's pretty funny, actually.
There was then that didn't last long. You didn't stay up in the box for too long.
No, only that game, I think.
It's on the sideline one time. Starts running, and somebody was standing on your headset cord.
Oh yeah.
Gary, the headset goes like this. Like, Coach turned around with it like this. Like, God damn it! Only Division III, like that's the kind of shit that would happen.
Yeah.
These guys were never paying attention and talking to their mom and stands or a girl and just all kind of shit.
Well, I'll tell you what, like being a defensive coordinator for Cubes, who was such an offensive guy, like he basically philosophy was, all right, defense, your job is just stop them. If you don't stop them, I'm pissed off because all I care about is I want the ball. We're gonna do anything we have to score, and I really don't care what it takes. But you guys just get the job done over there, you know. So as a defensive coach playing for an offensive guy, which I was an offensive guy really until I got to Widener, and then eventually after that. And so I understand that. But Hughes, basically, his thing was if something went wrong, he just looked at you and said, straighten it out. Get it taken care of. That's it. in much more colorful language. But so I knew, hey, it was simple as that. We had to get the job done. It didn't matter what we had to do. We just had to get it done. So that was, and truthfully, and Hughes coached at that level from a, you know, screaming and yelling standpoint. And so that brought me on because I'm like, okay, I can't let that, you know, I got to keep up with him. So I'll tell you a funny story. When Hughes first got the job. Now you guys don't know Bill Manlove very well. Mm-mm. Bill is one of the calmest, quietest, nicest human beings you could possibly meet. And he coached that way. He was very laid back. He had good teams and good players, and he was a great coach. But from a personality and exuberant standpoint, completely different than Bill Cubitt. So we're scrimmaging in the summer, preseason scrimmage against each other, and somebody doesn't get the first down, and it misses it by like 2 inches. And Hughes comes out and it brings the running back, whoever it was, he brings him out and he shows him how much he missed it by. And he went crazy. I don't know if you guys remember this. He went crazy because the guy did not get that last inch, right? And, you know, because he was trying to teach toughness, you know, we had to come in there and get people tough. He was trying to teach toughness. But, you know, he gets done. They go back to the huddle. One of the referees who's there for the scrimmage looks at me and says, hey, things have changed around here.
Yeah.
So going from Manlove to Hughes was like huge. What a huge difference in personalities between those two guys. So it was pretty funny. Do you remember who was it? Oh, shoot. Paul Dixon.
Oh,
do you remember
God.
Paul Dixon?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you guys remember the last hit that we did?
Yeah.
So, yeah, with Dix on, and he calls Hughes out. That was just one of the greatest. We still talk about that as a staff. One of the greatest things that happened on a practice field that I've ever been around is when he called Hughes out and then knocked him on his butt. It was unbelievable. After the way Hughes said, you know, basically regaled him his whole career.
Oh man, he was rough. He was
rough
him.
on Dix.
Oh,
he was rough
man.
on Dix.
Yeah.
What did he call him? Shamu, right? Shamu was his nickname.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah.
So when Dix got him back, it was like a culmination of everything that happened to him in his career when he got him on that last hit. I remember we went in the locker room afterwards, and Q said, "That's it. We're never doing a last hit again, ever."
Yeah, because you never did it again. You guys never did it again. That was it. That was the last.
Oh, that was funny. Oh man.
Yeah, he was tough. He was tough. He was real rough on him. I mean, you know, and like to talk about Paul quickly, like he brought it on himself a lot of ways, you know, a lot of things, you know, but
no question about it.
You know, it was just the way.
But the Hughes was very successful. I mean, he was very successful.
Yeah.
Like I call him a bull in a china shop because he basically just knocked everything over to get to where he had to get to. And that was the way he coached, you know, and it was successful. He did a great job at Widener. He got the program turned back around. He got a lot of good players in, and he made positives to Hughes. He's got his negatives, but he got positives.
Yeah.
Bunta, let me tell you my Bunta story. So one day I'm up on campus. I've told you this before, haven't I?
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm up on campus outside the student center. Drive my car. I forget where I was going. And there you are walking outside the student center, smoking a cigarette. Okay. And I'm like, when I come back to the office, I'm like, I think I saw Bunta smoking a cigarette. And they're like, oh, yeah, a bunch of smokes. I'm like, what? What do you mean he smokes? Yeah, him, Vic, whoever. It was like,
all of them. Oh, they're all
smoke. I'm like, what? He's like, I mean, he relies on his speed. That's his number one thing. And he's smoking. You got to be kidding me. I could not believe it.
It's funny. I think about it sometimes, Coach, because, there's such a knowledge today about these football programs, and it's a culture and this and that and whatever. And I feel like this era we're talking about, maybe slightly a little bit newer, but whatever. It was like a bunch of pirates running around, and we were just, like we were able to graduate, but it was not like it is today. Like there was the only scheduled thing we had was pack hall, and probably 10% of the team maybe would go to that if they were lucky. And it was just a bunch of savages running around, eventually, going to class.
Your own thing.
Yeah, and the locker room had a dirt floor, and we lifted boulders in the gym, and now it's all this cushy shit, and it's a whole different thing. But it felt like we were a bunch of loose gorillas out on roaming the plains, whatever at all times, and show up at practice at 3:30.
Pete, I will tell you that football is completely different now. It is completely different now. You got to be like stuff I said to you guys back in the old days. There's no way I can play with that now. As a young coach, as I got older and I had a reputation, I still say to guys. But a younger coach coming through right now, you got to be really careful about what you say. And truthfully, it's hard to get a kid like I believe, and you could make guys tougher. You could make them tougher. You could or push them. He really wasn't a tough kid, and make him tougher so you could live with him out there on the field. Nowadays, I don't know that you can do that. I don't really feel like you have the leeway to go push a kid so hard to make him a little bit tougher, which is, where you need him to be in order to play him. And I feel like, it's just the way society is, and it is the way life is, and kids get treated completely differently now than they used to. And like, there's so much stuff done for them now. It's amazing. It's so much different than when you guys played.
Yeah, for sure. I see it with just a little bit with my two youngest boys that are, and one's 10th grader, going to be a 10th grader, and the other one's going to be a 9th grader, and some of the stuff that they get from their high school situation, and that's just high school. Again, it's even probably a little bit
all the
worse.
camps they go to.
Oh yeah, all the.
Yeah, I mean they're doing between all the. The some travel teams and this thing and that, they just get treated that way, So if they think about a kid who's been treated with care for years, and he walks into Bill Cuban, from those days, Bill Cuban from those days, he'd be like, "Oh my God, what is this?" It's in my butt, and he's been used to getting his butt kissed. So it's different nowadays, that's for sure.
Yes, from my experience, it was actually easier. Like I came from Slasianum, and the coaches there were fucking insane. Mm-hmm. I mean, they to this day. I mean, so it was, I could almost smile. Versus what I was, I came from a program, coach, where we got one water break at practice, and we never, ever unbuckled your chin strap. Like we were walking around like I could take my helmet off. Holy shit! So it is now the difference today. I mean, the kids walk around like they're, celebrities all over the place, and laying down, and I mean they just let it happen. It's crazy, but it's society, like you said. It's
all these
how it's working out.
All these kids have drones. We follow them in practice to try to get highlight tapes. They hire guys who have drones, and they come to practice, and and videotape practice for highlight tape for them. It's like you can't even imagine that this stuff happens, but it does. It happens.
Oh my
But
God.
like you said, see, back then, the culture was so much different that the kids would come in and it wasn't like they were used to us, but they could understand that was the way guys coached, you know. But nowadays, you just can't do it. You just can't do it. You say the wrong thing and somebody's you lose your job. To lose your job. That's just different. You know, it's funny how, like, I thought I played in the 70s and it was different then. And you guys played in the 90s. It's a lot different in the 90s than it is today. So, and I just don't see it turning around. I think it's here to stay. Well, it's like the transfer portal. If kids aren't happy, they just leave. So, you know, hey, coach, I'm going to the portal. And you can say, look, you know, you can go in the portal, but there's nothing really out there for you. They say, yeah, that's right. I'm going to go in the portal anyhow. And they test the waters. And a lot of times there's not anything for them out there, but they think there is. And that's the way it is nowadays. That's why that transfer portal, think about how many kids go into the transfer portal every year. It's incredible, the number. And of those kids, maybe a third actually wind up in another school where they're actually playing, you know.
Yeah.
So, but again, you're not putting the genie back in the bottle for that. That transfer portal is here to stay. The NIL stuff is here to stay. It's going to get worse and worse before it gets better. There's no way kids aren't getting paid anymore. They're getting paid. They're simple as that. They're going to get paid.
Yeah.
And you get paid, you know, at the higher levels, a lot of money, and that gives you some leeway over everybody. It just does. Look at the quarterback from Tennessee last year. That he tried to. He basically was going to hold out for the bowl game. He told them, "I'm not going to play the bowl game unless you guys, you know, fork up the money." And they didn't, and he played in the bowl game. But at that point, the rest of his team, that was it. Boom. We don't care about you anymore. So when he transferred, they were happy. You know, when he said. So kids still have that inside of them, but so many of them, you know, who you count on. I mean, you count on the quarterback, you count on middle linebacker, and the wide receiver and running back, and those guys can dictate terms, and that's hard to do. That's hard to deal with.
Yeah, I even saw an article not long back that from a transfer portal perspective that Baylor University lost their entire men's basketball team to the portal.
Oh,
the entire team. It's like, oh my God. So
I think Baylor, maybe Indiana, I think might have been the other team. Yeah, they just lost the entire team. Like everybody left. Well, but I mean, truthfully, if you came, let's say, well, Widener's a different story, but if you came and you played for somebody who's a hard coach, you just say, hey, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm out. Again, transfer portal, and I'm out. So you don't sit there and fight your way through it and try to make yourself tougher and, you know, see if that's good for you. You just say, nah, I don't like this. I'm out, and you're out. So it's, you know, but you know, Jim, you guys know Jimmy, he's done a great job, and he's tough on his kids, you know, because that's the way he grew up. He grew up, you know, with guys being tough on him, and it made a difference in his life. And that's what he's trying to do with his kids. So he's been very successful carrying along that tradition of, you know, being tough on your guys. But Jimmy's great because you guys know him, because those kids trust him. They put their arms around him. They hug him. They believe in him. So he can yell at them because they believe in what he's given them, which I always felt I had to a certain extent. I thought my kids that played for me at Widener and Westchester believed in me. So they let me, you know, lay it out there once in a while because they knew I had their back, and they knew I was going to do everything I could to support them and to win. So they were willing to take my yelling and screaming at them because they thought it was going to pay off for them in the long run, you know. So
yeah, I would say so. Right? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about being genuine, you know, and that's what Coach
I agree. Yeah,
that's what Jimmy is. If they know it's coming from the right place, and you truly care about them, they'll run through the wall for you. But if it's just going to be, you know, surfaced or just a show, you know whether someone's genuine or not. And Coach Zwann's genuine more than anything. Jimmy's genuine with his players. They know it's coming from the right place and what it's meant behind it. So you can get behind that and want to fight for those people.
Gary, you said something about you learn good and bad things from different programs and coaches and that kind of thing. And I agree with that 100%. When I first started coaching high school, I coached for a guy named Vince Knoll, who was a good guy, but he would say crazy things, And I thought, man, I'll never say that to a kid, or I never would, make a kid think that way. But he was a good guy, did some good things. I took some good things from him, but there were certain things I said, no way, I'm not going to ever do that. And I feel like Tubby Raymond, who was one of the greatest coaches in America, who I played for at Delaware. So I start my junior year. We go to the championship game. My junior spring, I tear my knee up in the spring, so I miss spring ball. So the two backup quarterbacks get the playing time through the spring. We come back in the fall. Now I'm coming off of a season where we got a national championship game. So I come back in the fall and I'm healthy. And he brings each one of us in, all three of us come in, and he says basically the same thing to each one. I really like what you're doing out there. I think you got a shot to start. I really like what you're doing. All right, so he tells us all the same stuff. Well, we go to the cafeteria for lunch. I mean, that's what we do. That's what you do in camp. We saw each other 15 minutes later. And we said, okay, what did he tell you? He told me I got a chance to start. What did he tell you? He told me the same thing. You say, okay, all right, well, can you trust him? He's just telling you what you want to hear, And I learned from that. I said, man, I'm never going to do that. I'm going to just tell a kid, listen, you're the starter. You're not the starter. This is the reason you're not the starter. And these are the things you got to work on. And I've told every coach who's ever worked for me, just be honest with the kids, because if you're not, then you got to backpedal. You got to figure out a way to say it in a certain way and make him feel good. And, well, I didn't really mean that. You just say, look, he's in front of you. That's the only reason that we play a kid before another kid is we think he's better. And these are the things we think he's better at, and you get better at that, and you'll get some playing time. And that's the easiest way to handle it. But I learned that lesson back in college. So, you just try to be as honest as you can with everybody. There's times where you got to talk in circles. There's no question about that. But you try to be as honest as you can. And they'll believe in you. If they believe in you, then they're going to play for you.
So how do you sell yourself when you're recruiting, Coach, at Westchester?
You know what? I do. So for me, I recruit the parents a lot. Okay. Because every kid gets told, that this is going to be a great place for you. And there's going to be this, going to be this, going to be this. So when we would bring kids up on our recruiting day, I would break them off with all the assistant coaches. So O-line with O-linemen and that kind of thing. And the parents would all stay with me. And then I would do a session with the parents. I'd say, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to cost you. This is the next thing that's going to happen to you. This is what's going to happen. And look, don't expect him to get playing time as a freshman. It doesn't happen around here. But he keeps working. This is going to. And so I lay it out as honestly as I can with the parents. Because truthfully, years ago, one of my first coaching jobs was the Merchant Marine Academy up in New York. Merchant Marine Academy, you have, just like you do at other academies, you come in early and you got to wake up at 5:45 in the morning. You got to scrub your room. You got to do all that kind of stuff. And we first got the job there. We went in, we said, look, we don't want to tell them about the bad stuff. Just tell them about the good stuff. So kids came and they were like, whoa, this isn't what you guys told me. And they left. So we were like, well, shit, we'd rather tell them ahead of time. And if they're not going to do it, have them not come, than have them come and leave, because you can't recruit another kid at that point, Mm-hmm. So that's the way I always felt. Like, if I tell the parents, this is what's going to happen, and the parents leave and say, you know what, I don't think that's the right place for him, fine. I'd rather they make that decision than have them come here and say, man, that's not what you told me. Because when you know how that is, if you come someplace and it ain't what you were told, at that point, I can't trust anybody. I can't trust the coach. I can't trust the AD. I can't trust anybody. I better keep an eye out for myself. So I want everybody coming in saying, okay, I can trust that guy. This is exactly what he said was going to happen. And I really feel like that was a huge recruiting advantage for me over the years, was making sure the parents knew and make sure the players knew exactly what was going to happen the day they walked in the door. And it happened that way. I mean, I know what happens to freshmen. I know exactly what's going to happen. You guys know as older guys, this is what's going to happen. And them guys come in thinking, man, I'm going to start. The coach told me I'm going to have, and you're like, yeah, you ain't starting, dude. It ain't happening. And then they find that out and say, man, what the hell? Football is different. Or college football than high school.
Yeah,
So as long as they know that ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I tell them,
Go ahead.
like at Westchester, we redshirted kids. Almost all, every freshman redshirted every year. And I would tell them ahead of time, you guys are redshirting. So I would like to say you're not going to redshirt, but the reality is 95% of our freshmen redshirt. The reason is because we got really good players who are juniors and seniors. You're not going to beat them out. And if we don't think you're going to beat them out, we're going to hold you out and give you the extra year on the back end. And I would explain that to the parents, and I explain that to the kids. And then I would say, okay, you guys are going to drive home. And on the ride home, your son's going to say to you, I'm going to be one of the 5%. I'm going to be that guy that they're definitely going to play as a freshman. And I say to the parents, that's great, because I want him. I want him to think he's going to be the 5%. That's the kid I want. I want a kid that's saying, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be that guy. Now, whether it happens or not isn't important. What's important is if he's saying he's going to be the guy, that's a guy I want on my team. And the parents all got that. The kids all got that. And that was a great selling point for them to say, hey, if you think you can play, you got 5% chance. Let's see if you get that done. And they were trying to prove it to me. And that's great. That kid's playing his butt off trying to prove it to me.
Is that going back to, Widener times when we were there coaching, 92, 94, all that. Was that something that was conscious? Were you guys bringing in that many kids and maybe thinking, let's do a reset here of some kind? Was that something? Because, so many, about half of the starters in 92 were almost half were freshmen or sophomores, maybe. So,
well, yeah, when we first got there, we had decided, look, we're going to have to play a lot of young guys. Number one, we didn't think there was enough talent in the program. And the couple of years before we got there, Widener had dropped off a little bit. So Bill Maniloff had great success. But in the last couple of years, it had started to drop off. And we could see the talent level was dropping. So we decided look, we need to have a big freshman class. We got to have a good freshman class. And a lot of those guys are going to end up playing for us, which we knew. We knew you guys were going to play early. Now, that's not the way you want it to happen, but we were in a circumstance where that did happen. And then, of course, that worked out great for you guys later because you had all the playing time under your belt and you were prepared to win games by the time you were juniors and seniors. But it was because of what we walked into as far as the program was concerned. Now, the school actually, incentivized Coach Cubitt to bring in as many kids as we could because they needed it from a tuition standpoint. They needed that money to come in. So they would tell us every year, okay, look, like we would say, look, we don't even bring in like 65 or 70. And they'd say, okay, that's fine. And then they'd find themselves short 15 guys. And they would call us to say, look, we need 15 more people for the class. And we would call up 15 more guys and get 15 more guys to come in. Now, we knew likely those last 15 guys we were bringing in weren't going to play, but the school needed them. So we had to figure out a way to practice. And their incentive was they gave Cubes extra money to carry those extra guys. They allow us to have a JV team. They allow us to do this, they allow us to do that. So they were doing things to help out the program because we were doing things to kind of help the school out by bringing in the extra guys. So that was their, they say, hey, if you bring in the extra guys, we'll give you this. We'll help you with that, that kind of thing. So we knew, we were at that point where, truthfully, I think, what do we have, 150 guys on the team to start the preseason out or whatever it was?
Something like that. It was.
And by the end of the season, it would always be down to 110 or 115, which is a workable number. When you bring in 170 guys and you're standing in line, you're number 12 in line. Okay, I'm 12 string today, Mom. Okay. Those guys they know where they're at, And so, but the school also knew, hey, we're going to have some, guys drift out, but if we can keep them in school, they still help us from a tuition standpoint. So that was our goal, was to try to keep those guys around for as long as we could. And then they could, stay in school and help us out that way. But we knew each year we were bringing 9,500 kids in every year. That was a lot of kids, man. A lot of kids. Yeah.
But I think the 1 year we started camp with over 200 kids.
Yes.
In 95, it was something like that, like 200 kids.
We did
home games. There were 2 kids with the same number all over the place.
Oh yeah, tons of that. And we played the JV games, and we tried to play everybody in the JV games. So that was pretty. We had kids coming out on the field that never should have played college football, and they were playing out there on the JV games. That was pretty amazing. But yeah, when your group came in, Pete, we knew we were going to play the young guys, and all those guys grew and got better and better and better. It was, lucky to a certain extent. Lucky because it doesn't usually work out that way, but not lucky because we went out and targeted you guys. We knew you could play. We knew Danny could play. We knew OJ could play. We knew guys could play. And we said, okay, we got to get them guys in here. We're going to have to play them early, unfortunately, but we know they can play. So we can just hang in there with them. It's going to end up working out great for us.
Yeah.
Think about at one point on the defensive side, you had Blaze, who American, academic All-American, leading tackler in school's history, so forth. You had OJ, leading sack guy in the school's history, and whatever was with that. Antonio set the school record for interceptions. There was some pretty good talent there. And it did kind of come together, and we played well. But, there were talented guys. There were legit talented guys. I mean, you're talking about the best sack guy in the school's history, the best tackler in the school's history, the best guy in the school's history. And the school has an unbelievable history. So the fact that those guys became bad,
seriously,
is pretty impressive.
They've actually discovered, Coach, there's a gentleman that played in the 81 national championship team. His name is Tony Stefanoni. He is apparently the Division III all-time sack leader.
He got up for the NCAA Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, 55 sacks guy has.
Yeah.
So apparently he's all-time.
Didn't he up for the Hall of Fame?
I think for the second time he's up for the NCAA Hall of Fame. So we'll see. I mean, that's somebody who deserves to be in there, right? So we already have 3 other people in there as well. But the talent was there. I mean, for sure. I mean, I remember to talk on that. I said this before when we played W&J in '94, and they were talking about their offense. They had 300-pound guys on their offensive line and this and that. And their defense was no slouch. Obviously, they were big guys. All of them were bigger than we were on their defensive line, the whole thing. And Sama was laying out this like doom and gloom tale. And then at the end, he goes, but you know what? We're not changing anything. We're not putting anything in new. We're not changing anything. We're going right at him. I'm like, oh, shit, this is going to be a war. So, the talent was there. I mean, it just, we just shit the bed at the end of it.
It was a war.
But sure.
Yeah, but it was a war. That was a great game. That was a great game. I got to tell you a good story about that game. Pre-game warm-ups, we're out there, getting warmed up in our stretching lines. And they're on their side in their stretching lines too. And one of those big offensive linemen who transferred from Pitt or whatever, who was just huge guy, huge. And James Garrett, do you guys remember Jimmy Garrett?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So he's wearing number 9, and he's in the warm-up line in the front because he's one of the seniors, and he's yelling across to them, "This is our day today. This is our field today. We're going to keep blah, blah, blah." He's saying all this stuff, right? I'm just standing there. The guy from W&J says, "Hey, number 9, I'm going to break your goddamn leg. Beat you over the head with it. I was scared to death. I'm like, holy shit. Talk about intimidating. I thought, oh my Lord.
Oh man.
That was wild, man. That was wild. And they were really good. And I forget how we had the ball at the end and didn't score or something. We had a shot, right?
We were winning going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And if I recall, we were deep in our own territory and we fumbled the ball on a option play. And they got it inside the 10, punched it in, took the lead, and then scored again. And that, I mean, if you look at the box score and the statistics, Coach, we only had possession of the ball for 19 minutes.
Oh, wow.
The defense was on the field for 41 minutes. I mean, they just grind us down. You know, we had 2 or 3 scores and our drives were like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, just right down the field. And you guys couldn't hold out they just leaned on you, you know.
Yeah, that you're right. Cause I remember, but after they scored, I think we drove the ball and like had a shot.
Yeah.
And maybe like went for it on fourth down and didn't get it or something along those lines. And then they just kind of ran the clock out, beat us up and scored at the end. Yeah.
I think
you guys remember, do you remember the Dickinson game?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a great Widener win. That was a great Widener win.
That's they were a hell of a team. I mean, but that was one of we talked about it before and a few other guests, but I know that was a game where I remember, and although we didn't score many points, we had a couple touchdowns called back. I never remember beating up somebody like the guys on top of me so badly. I beat the living shit out of those guys. I had 3 or 4 times where I blocked a guy out of the screen, out of the video screen. So that was it was a good game.
They led the country in offense. And they led the country in rushing offense, which was 90% of their offense was on the ground. And our guys just manhandled them, and just hit them in the backfield. Like you said, Pete, they were just dominating them on the offensive line to the point where you're like looking at it saying, how are these guys leading the country in rushing offense? Because they weren't impressive in that game. We just manhandled them. And that was a heck of a, because it was a huge playoff. I think it was our first playoff win, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was. Yeah.
And they were ranked, what, 2 or 3 in the nation?
Yeah.
They were way up there.
They were, really they were high.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was a heck of a win. I remember after the game and the bus ride and everything, that was a lot of fun. Oh,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every bit of it. Like you don't understand, like living in Lancaster County, right? The schools, living in Lancaster County. So Dickinson is, like a 45-minute ride to Carlisle. And then you have F&M, which is like 15 minutes from my parents' house. And they would always publish, Dickinson or F&M, right? And then, when I went to Widener, I'm like, you know what? I can't wait to play these damn schools because, I hate hearing about them. But not only that, Coach, when they came to recruit, they didn't even look at me. And that was just like, whoa, am I that really bad or what was it that I couldn't sell myself to them, But
you were a great student, weren't you?
I was. I graduated in 4 years.
I mean, you were a really good student coming out of high school. So how would they not look at you? I don't understand that.
I don't know if our coach didn't, because I was being recruited by lots of D2 schools, at the time too. But like the schools like Susquehanna came in, they didn't even look at me. Dickinson came in, they didn't even look at me. And again, F&M, they were looking at like the other guys, on the team. And I'm just like, man, I can't wait. Like I said, I hope to play these guys, and like I said, every team that came to recruit that didn't recruit me, it was just kind of like the revenge tour, for me. And it made me want to play better, and that's that's the best part about it. Made him pay for it, man.
There was a funny, there's a lot. I have about 10 funny stories about that game, but I can just give a quick one. We scored on a long kind of like a screen pass type play with Robson Little. About a 50-yard pass play, and on the play, he was not supposed to go out. he was supposed to stay in and block, and Woody was ripping him. And he's like, he see him catch the ball and he scores. And he's like, I guess it was a good thing I went out, huh, coach?
Yeah.
Like,
he was a great talent, man. Robson, he was really good player, boy.
Yeah.
Really good.
He
to
had
have all
moves.
three of those guys,
Moves.
man, all three, him, Anthony, and George, all at the same time. Jesus Christ!
Amazing.
I mean,
Amazing. Who was the fullback with that group?
Barnes.
Barry
and
Barnes and Doug McLaughlin.
yeah,
Dougie,
Doug McLaughlin.
Dougie.
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
God.
Who
Great
else? Did we have
How
another
about-
guy in there too?
So there was so I'll give you a couple. So in '94, I hurt my knee. I missed 3 games. I missed the worst 3 games: Del Val and Leb Val, and I don't know, maybe not Leb Val, but whatever the crappiest teams were in the middle of the season. Larry got hurt at the same time, so we were both out around the same time. And at that point, up until that point of the season, Larry was having an all-conference season. I think he had like 7 touchdowns in the first 3 or 4 games. I mean, he was just
Really?
scoring. Like, he had a bunch of touchdowns. He was doing well. He got hurt and really never recovered. And then he never came back after that in '95. So, I think Doug got in there and started to, make some headway. I think he had a game or 2 where he had nearly 100 yards rushing at fullback, stuff like that. So they just kind of tag teamed it at that point. But I was excited for Larry at first, and then he got hurt, and then he just season it fell apart at that point. But they did what they did. But
I think they put Avery Cologne back there too.
I think Avery Cologne played a game or so at fullback. Eventually, Steve Perez here or there snuck in there occasionally, but it was mostly Doug. After that was more of the lead, and then in '95 he brought in that other kid, Edmund Robinson.
Edmund
Eddie
Robinson.
Robinson, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about him? That was something else. He didn't come to the playoff game. You guys remember that, right? he didn't get on the bus because he didn't want to be tested or
Oh, yeah. At that point, what the hell's the difference? That was
really.
Coach. Like, I laugh. We joke about this, like you guys fed your families off of idiots like us, And we were at I guess it was Dickinson. It was Dickinson. And we're at the hotel and we're watching the movie, team movie, and everyone's going around going, "Hey, coach, I need another pitcher of cranberry juice."
That was Lycoming. That was at Lycoming.
No. It was definitely
Dickinson.
Yeah, it goes.
Oh my God.
The other funny story of Dickinson was, that's when everyone got tested, and they tested. I guess maybe a dozen or so guys. And 2 of the guys they tested were Lloyd and Danny Adamski, Lloyd Hill and Danny Adamski. And at that game, Danny had a broken bone in his hand, and he had a big ball over his hand.
Oh, I remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
So they had to rush to get showered. Well, he couldn't shower himself.
Yeah.
He had dirt all down to one side. He couldn't reach it with his hand or whatever. Or he couldn't reach across with his good hand. So he had Lloyd wash his hip and side.
Oh my gosh.
And then he's like, Lloyd was like, "Oh man," he did it real fast and then ran out of the shower.
Lloyd, talk about a great guy, man. Lloyd.
Oh, man.
Do you remember all the Florida guys? So Lloyd, it ended up working out tremendous for. Do you guys remember Henry Colmer?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Henry, he was a piece of work, boy. I loved Henry. I thought he was hilarious, and he played hard, man. He played hard.
He showed up at one practice, coach. We talked about
it
this
was
again.
not. To me, it was not for him.
He showed up with he had a quilted flannel shirt on under his pads.
Yeah.
And he taped his face.
He
mask.
went to the mall.
He
Yes.
put tape all over his face mask and everything.
He went to the mall to buy stuff to practice in because he never had any warm clothes or, winter clothes before. That he was a piece of work, boy. He was a good football player, though. I liked Henry a lot. And Leon Payne, he is a piece of work.
Yeah, I heard he went to prison. Is that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah. Tons of talent, but nothing between the ears.
Yeah, that was. That's the truth. It was funny, speaking of someone like that, like Antonio Moore, like, he had that amazing year and didn't come back because he never went to class. He never went as a 0 point.
Yeah.
And then
But,
I don't remember when it was, but like what time of year? I guess it must have been preseason for '95, and that we had the Sports Illustrated issue with Keyshawn Johnson coming out of the cover, and they had mentioned Widener in there, and they had mentioned Antonio by name in the magazine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He never knew it.
He never
knew it, Coach. We were talking one time on Facebook and stuff, and I had an extra copy of it, and I said, "Hey, Antonio," I didn't say anything to him. I got his address and I mailed it to him, and I put a little letter, and he opened it up. Holy shit, man! I never saw this. 20 years later, I never saw this. I was in Sports Illustrated. It's like,
but the thing for them guys is it was too costly. They could not afford it.
Yeah.
The first year they gave them a nice financial aid package, but once they really had to write a check to pay the rest of the bill, that's what they, like you said, like they knew they weren't going to come back, so they'd stop going to class and all that kind of stuff. And once Christmas hit, they were gone. But some of them kids were good kids. Some of them, it was okay for them to go, but some of them were good kids. And I loved Henry. I thought he was hilarious. I wonder how he's doing now. But and then like you look at Lloyd. I mean, you guys brought Lloyd out of his shell and really helped him become who he is today. Because he was such a great kid, but he really didn't have anything. He needed you guys, and you guys just kind of brought him in, took him in, made him, and he to this day, I talk to him a lot. He can't say enough about what you guys did for him. And the fact that
he joined the fraternity that we were all in together. And then I'll tell you a funny story. My wife was a Widener grad too, and she took a social dancing class, and Lloyd was her partner. She's like, like up here dancing.
Lloyd can't move at all. He's feet up. But they're the kind of things that I think about. You guys changed Lloyd's life. I mean, coming to Widener changed Lloyd Hill's life.
Yeah.
And the fact that he met you guys and you guys took him under your wing and really, I mean, he never went back home. He just stayed up here. He stayed with you guys. He hung out with you guys. And this was now his life when you got there. So you just think about those kind of things that happen in football or sports teams. And, in my coaching career, you see those kind of things. Every time I see Lloyd Hill, I think Widener changed his life. And you guys in particular did that. And he just became a different guy. And everybody loved Lloyd. Everybody loved Lloyd. There's not a single person that did not love Lloyd to this day. Yep. And so it's one of the really good stories that you're real happy about because of the guy who it happened to,
Yeah. No, I know these guys would agree. I mean, it so positively affected my life, and I know these guys too. I mean, just talking to Gary. I mean, he wasn't sure. Years back, wasn't sure. What do I do? We talked it out, and went to graduate school because of it. And then said, "Do you think I could coach?" I'm like, "Call a coach up." And Woody brought him right in. Like it was, that. You had that. It was already locked in, man. You just needed to ask and just go, and that was what this is all about. The whole brotherhood of it is about, right? You should lean on us first if you needed something, right? So it really has done a number on everybody.
Do you remember when Tall wanted to quit? You guys remember when Calvin Tall wanted to quit?
Oh yeah,
Calvin Tall.
Yeah.
So he was ready to go. He was out. His dad came to pick him up. He was out. I remember you grabbed me after dinner, said, "Coach, Calvin's leaving. You can't let Calvin leave. He can't leave because football was his life. It was that was it, man." And he was ready to give it all up. And you guys all knew, no, you can't, Calvin. We're not letting you leave. And you didn't let him leave. And it's made his life. It changed his life. That's the way it is. And you guys were all such a great bunch of guys that you made differences in people's lives, which is, that's something you can always hang on to, So.
Agreed. Absolutely, Coach. Absolutely.
Hey, I'm going to have to jump off of here, guys.
Yeah, you go ahead, Coach. We appreciate you jumping on, and I'm
Listen,
sure we'll get you
a lot
back
of
on here
fun,
for
man, a
another
lot of
time.
fun.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely. I would love to tell the stories about the playoff runs. That was so much fun. And
We'll
that,
get
you know, that,
yeah.
yeah, when we beat Lycoming 50-49 double overtime, you know, Woody jumped out of the stands and tore his Achilles. You guys remember that? You guys, it was after you guys were there.
Yeah.
So Woody's up in the booth.
Wow.
And, you know, we were just dying to beat Lycoming, you know, and we got them in double overtime, 50-49, and he's running down from the booth, jumps out of the stands and the high wall, you know, from the stands to the track, and he lands the wrong way and tears his Achilles. And it didn't matter. He was getting out on the field, man. He was not stopping him. We dealt with it after.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Well, yeah, well, Coach, we'll get you back on. We'll get you back on soon, and we'll gather up some more stories. But we appreciate your time.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right,
Good
guys.
talking to you, Coach.
Great talking with you.
Yeah.
See you, Coach.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
rest of the summer.
Take care, Coach.
Thanks. You too. See you guys.